Jefferson Forest steps into regional play, taking on Orange County. I'm talking to the head man of the Cavaliers, JT Cruz. Before we look ahead, let's look backwards. Want to burn the film last week?
That's a good way to put it. Obviously that is not. I do not feel that game was representative of where we are at as a team, where we're at as a program at this point this year. Don't get me wrong, there were some good things to take away from it, but there was a whole lot more bad things. We competed in the first half. I thought we missed some opportunities. Had to settle for some field goals when I thought we had some opportunities to get some touchdowns. And then the second half, man, it was one error after another, and it just snowballed on us, and it got out of control. And when you're playing a good team like that, like they're absolutely going to take advantage of that. And all it takes is one play for them to take advantage of that. And so, hats off to LCA, man. They got a really, really good football team. I think they're going to be tough out here in the playoffs.
With Huddle, you can, obviously, we talked about it before, you can see how much time you spend watching film. Can you block or deny your players access?
I could. No, that's not something we would do for that game. And I'll tell you kind of the story for that game. So, going into it last year, that game was really big, and we made it really big. It was we were playing for a Seminole District title. We were at the point where we were really trying to establish ourselves as a top tier program in the Seminole. And man, we put our heart and our soul and everything into that game. And then when it didn't go our way, I don't know that we ever truly recovered from that as a team that year. We came out the next week against GW, and I didn't feel like we played the way that we were capable of playing. And then the following week against Glass, we got off to a really slow start. Again, I don't think we played the way that we were capable of playing. And Glass, a good Glass football team, beat us and knocked us out of the playoffs at that point. And so going into it this year, it was the message was like, yes, we want to win this game, and we're going to do everything we can to win it. But this game does not define our season, right? So we didn't want to sell our soul to go win that game, knowing that win or lose, we still got to come back and we got to play the next week, right? And so that was more the focus, was like, hey, we can go out here, we can play free, knowing that whatever happens, like we're playing next week, and that's going to be our focus next week. I didn't want to have that hangover of, we put everything into it, it didn't go our way, or even if it did go our way, right? Now you're on top of the world and you feel like you can go out and beat anybody, and that's when you get beat too. So it was like hey, this week is this week, and once we're done, we're turning the page. And to our kids' credit, I really feel like they have done that. Like that thing is a distant memory at this point.
For the record, I can be a jerk to your brother, but I really wasn't trying to be a jerk to you when I said,
no.
You really want to take it out? I mean,
that's a good question to ask.
Have you ever seen Men in Black? I mean, like when they flash the thing to erase somebody's memory. With that being said, you're getting beat more than you want to beat, obviously. Do you pull kids out last week early?
Well, so honestly, I wish we would have. We lost a really, really good player, Wrigley Colling. He's been a fullback for us, defensive end. Been an all-district player several years. So he hurt his knee, probably about midway through the third quarter of that game. So it wasn't super late. It was probably past the point of us being able to come back and win that one at that point. And so, hindsight's 20/20, and do we wish we had pulled that kid? Yeah, maybe. But on the same hand, like, you never want to throw in the towel and you want to continue to compete. So I don't know. It's one of those situations, I guess, where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Sure. And I'm not trying to second guess when I ask that question, by the way. Well, let me ask this question. Do you pull kids out because, hey, the goal is bigger, we want to be fresh for next week? Or, I mean, I think that's the old football question of how long do you play your starters when you've got the playoffs coming? What's your take on that?
I just think it depends on the situation, and it's almost a game by game thing. At that point in that game, like, we're still trying to compete and show that, like, hey, we are capable of playing with these guys, even if the end result is not going to be what we want it to. Like, can we put a drive together? Can we get a stop on defense? Can we do these things that we can point to and say, like, hey, the game didn't go our way, but, like, if we do what we're supposed to, this is what we can do. So you're always still out there competing.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, from all the way up to pros, because I think pros is where you have that discussion. Do we want to play our guys in the last week of the regular season? or do we treat it like it's a preseason game? I don't want to get guys out of rhythm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you knew no matter what happened last week, you knew you were going to be playing this week. So in a way, and I'm not trying to pat you on the back, do you feel like the guys stayed in a football playing rhythm?
Yeah, yeah, and again, like it's at the end of the day, it's are you going to continue to go out and compete, and whether it's over the course of a season, over the course of a game, over the course of a drive, like are you gonna continue to go out and compete every single play, or are you gonna find a way to get blocked so you don't have to come off and make a tackle on defense or offense or whatever the situation may be? Are you gonna go out and you're gonna get full effort every time? And I think sometimes when you start to pull kids and substitute, maybe it can kind of send the message that, hey, we're no longer in this to compete. And I don't ever want that to be a message to our kids.
What do you know about Orange?
Seen a good bit of them on film. They're a good football team. They got the same record we do. They defensively and offensively, they're not incredibly diverse in what they do, is that they don't have a huge package. What they do is they have a select set of plays that they are very, very good at running. And they all kind of complement each other in different ways, right? And so they're really good at what they do. They don't do a ton, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for them. In fact, it's one of those deals where, like, you better have an answer for what they're doing, and they're just going to keep hitting you with it. And then all of a sudden, when you do have that answer, well, they got something else to complement it to, once you've adjusted to take it away, well, now they're going to take advantage of that adjustment type thing. So they're a good football team. I mean, they present some issues offensively and defensively in that regard.
3 seeds being better than the 4, I guess. Are you happy that you are not seeing a team that you have seen this 4 in this first game?
Yeah, and it's funny. I talk about that with some of the other Seminole coaches from time to time. Now, I don't ever want to see a Seminole team again in the playoffs, right? Like, it's hard enough to beat these guys once in the regular season, and then you might have to turn around and do it again in the playoffs. Like, that's just not a road that I want to go down. And again, recent experience being the tail for that last year against Glass. You beat a really good Glass team in the regular season, and then you got to turn around and play another really good Glass team again in the playoffs, and that is not a draw that I want to see.
Devil's advocate here. What if you played another team from the region and saw them in the playoffs? Is that what you want to see, or does it not matter?
You're saying if we played like an out-of-district regional team and then saw them again in the playoffs?
Correct.
Again, I try and avoid that as much as possible. I mean, I just from the nature of scheduling, like things like that are going to happen. But I always want to see a playoff opponent fresh, right? Like, because no matter how it shakes out, I just feel like it puts your team at a disadvantage, right? Either you beat them, and then maybe your kids kind of feel like, we already beat these guys. Like, we got this one in the bag. Or if you lose to them, sometimes, like, that can create confidence issues in and of itself. It's like, man, we couldn't beat them the first time. I'm going to go ahead and play them again, And there is the other side of that where it's, hey, we get a second crack at them, and what are you going to do then? But to me, I would just like to go into it fresh. And like, hey, we haven't seen these guys before. They haven't seen us. They're playing in a different district against different competition we're playing against, and let's just figure out who's the best between us.
When did you know it was going to be Orange?
So we had we knew Friday going into it. We had some scenarios played out as to what it would look like with a win for us, what it would look like with a loss for us, and then we had some scenarios after the game where we knew how everything finished up. We were waiting on one more game to be played, and that was Sharando and John Hanley. And so the winner, they played at noon on Saturday. So whoever won that game was going to determine some things from a seeding standpoint. And so we kind of had a scenario broken out to where, okay, well, if Sharando wins, this is where we're going to be. If Hanley wins, this is where we're going to be. So we had a pretty good idea, and then after the game on Saturday, we knew.
Is live scouting a big deal anymore?
When you say a lot, like going and watching a game live?
Correct.
Honestly, it's not something that I'm big into. I think with where Huddle's at now, where I can pull up a game and I can watch that game as many times as I need to. I can watch that play as many times as I need to. I can get pretty much everything that I need from that. And oftentimes more than I can get from watching a game live. I do think there are some advantages to watching a game live, particularly if you're playing a team that likes to operate in different tempos, and sometimes they huddle, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you don't necessarily get that stuff on the film. And so that can be good to see. But for the most part, I think pretty much everything that you need, you're going to be able to get from huddle.
You talk about Orange does what they do really well. Where have you challenged your guys this week?
So I mean, it's the same thing every week. It's the same message that we give them. It's not even necessarily about Orange. It's about us, right? And of course, what we do is going to be in response to what Orange does, specifically from a defensive standpoint, right? Like, they play in kind of a flex bone type offense where they run a lot of fullback dive, and then they've got some tosses and sweeps and things off of that, and then they'll hit you with play action pass. And so, defensively, you got to be ready to line up and play against that. But it's the challenge to our guys that, hey, it's about how we execute our job within that defense, right? So that is the challenge. Could you go out and do your job every single play, doing what is asked of you, not trying to go and make somebody else's play. Trust them to make their play, and when they do, that play is going to come to you. So that's been the main challenge to our guys.
So it's about you. It's not about the other team. I've heard that for many, many weeks now. And I'm not saying it's not true. But with that being said, what do you do with Scout? I mean, I know they're running Orange's plays or whoever's plays, but I mean, I'm trying to think how to word this. I mean, how much emphasis do you have on Scout?
Well, so to me, that's a competitive period. And so you have your starting defense out there or your starting offense out there. And then the scout team is going to do what they can to simulate Orange, right? And so the focus of that period, if we're running team defense and we have the scout team offense out there, the focus of that period is for the defense to go out there and do their job against what the scout offense is presenting them with. Now with that, I'm the offensive coordinator. And so I'm somewhat involved on defense, but for the most part, I let Coach Burford, my defensive coordinator, Coach Kidd, my D-line coach, Coach Young, my DB's coach, I let them handle the majority of the game plan. If I see something, make a suggestion here and there, sure. But for the most part, they got it and I trust them. And so my role when we're on team defense is I'm going to run the scout team offense. And when I am running the scout team offense, I am trying to score on our defense. One, I'm doing that because I want our kids on scout to go out and compete as hard as they can to whoop the starting defense's butt out there. And two, in doing that, it's maybe going to expose some issues that we have defensively, hey, if there's an adjustment that we need to make to defend this certain play, we're going to see that if our scout offense is going out and executing as well as they can. Versus if they're just going out quick. Go ahead.
Interrupt real quick. When you're running a scout offense, you're running obviously the team that your defense is going to play.
Correct. Yeah.
So with that being said, do you want them to I'm not saying run the play perfectly, but no improv?
No. It is all drawn up for them.
Okay.
Right. So I know how our defense is going to line up, and then I will draw cards.
Sure.
Of what the Orange offense is what I anticipate this play, how they would block that against our defense. I'll draw that up. I'll show it to our guys and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And then they go out there and execute that play to the best of their ability.
But what if they don't? What if the play starts to break down or whatnot? Is it improv and use your athleticism or still run what Orange would do?
At times. And so, maybe it's a pass play called and, typically they drop back and they deliver the ball here. Well, our quarterback, he's going to go out and compete. And so if that dude's covered, he's not just going to throw it to a covered kid. He's going to run around and try and make something happen, right? And same thing if we run a fullback dive and it's stuffed up the middle, and typically what they do is just lower their head and go into it. Well, maybe our kid bounces it outside to try and get a little bit more. It's not necessarily 100% what Orange would do. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good look. And on the same hand, the defense has to be prepared for whatever comes at them because we've talked about this before, the offense kind of dictates to the defense. And so they could come out and do things that we haven't seen. They could come out and block it in a way that maybe we haven't, shown them a perfect look in scout team. And there are times on scout where I'll see something that our defense is doing and know that okay, well, if they do this, it could present us issues. And so I'll throw that at them just to kind of see how we adjust and how we handle it. And, maybe Orange has seen the same thing watching us on film. Maybe they haven't. And sometimes they end up going that route and sometimes they don't with the teams that we're playing. But it's all about getting our kids going out there, simulating Orange as best that we can so that our team defense, who the focus of that session is, can put in the work and understand their responsibilities and do the best thing that they need to do.
The question sounded so good in my head, by the way.
Well, it's one of those things where, scout offense can go a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. If you're really, really good up front on your defense, and we're pretty good up front, a lot of times it can just be a crap show because they just whoop your scout offensive line's butt and you can't get anything done. And to our guys' credit on the scout offense, like that's not always what happens. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes that happens, but a lot of times we're able to run the plays that need to get run and you know, show the issues to the defense that may pop up because they're going out there and they're giving great effort. They don't accept that, oh man, we're just a scout team. We're going to go out here and get our butts kicked. Like, no, they're out there competing. They're trying to score. And like, they're going to talk trash. Like, if they score, they are absolutely going to let the defense know about that. And then we're going to try and score again.
Before we get into the keys and everything without giving away too much, do you ever have fighting practice?
This year we have not had an actual fight. You know, is there pushing and shoving every now and again? Sure. And like, to a certain extent, it's, you want some of that because again, you want that competitiveness, right? Like I want us to bring out the best in each other. And if you're just going out there and going through the motions because you don't really care, you're not going to get that. It's, hey, there's a line, right? And we can't cross that line. And once you start throwing punches and you know, making things personal, that crosses that line. But can we go right up to that line? Yeah, we can go right up to that line and compete and try and better each other. And that brings out the best in everybody.
Sure. Yeah, I guess my question was getting to the point of how far do you let it go if things are getting to the point of, I don't want to say a full-blown fight, but like, you know, more than what you want to see, obviously. But you want to see energy, but you don't want to see to where we got every Burford kid and every other human that's got a whistle's got to blow it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, I'm not going to say that that's never happened on the practice field for us because, of course, it has. Like, it's football. I think, you know, most coaches have seen a fight or two of practice in their time. Usually you can get a feel for when that sort of thing is coming. Like, hey, maybe these two kids are pushing each other a little bit late after the whistle and they're starting to talk to each other. And it turns into more of, like, not friendly trash talk, but just straight up trash talk. And it's like, all right, well, hey, let's get this kid out for a second and throw somebody else in there so we've got to cool this thing down.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen it before. I think it was in Washington back in the day when training camp, Stephen Davis and Michael Westbrook, and one of them got on top of the other one and just started pounding him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're not going that far.
But there is a school of thought out there that, you know, sometimes you get it to practice and it's a little low energy and it's like, you know, hey man, we could use a good scuffle out here to kind of get things going a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that bordered more on assault, by the way, rather than a scuffle.
yeah. I don't think I ever want that, particularly when we're talking about high school kids. Like, that's not a road we want to go down. I
love Adam Hopkins, but I don't need to see him on the football field putting people in cuffs.
Yeah.
So anyway, how's week of practice been?
It's been a good week. It's been a really good week. You know, today's Thursday. We had, you know, good bit of rain. And so we actually shortened it a little bit more than we typically. Thursday's usually going to be a short day and we shortened it even more than we typically do. But honestly, I think that was probably a good move for us. One, just being out in the rain and the cold. You got sickness and all that stuff going around. You don't want to spend a ton of time out there. But two, just sometimes when the kids know, like, hey, you know, the phrase we always use is do it right, do it light. So like if we get in, we do our work and we do it the right way, like it's going to be light on us and we're going to get out of there. So they're fired about that because they know like, hey, if we get it done, we get out of here quick and get out of this cold rain and you know, get out of here. And so it was good energy. You know, we had a really, really good day of practice and have had a really good week of practice up to this point.
Offense, defense, special teams, one key in each.
Okay.
Been doing that.
Yeah, so it's gonna honestly, it's gonna be the same key, right? Offensively, it's can we establish the run game and can we play the style of football that we want to play, right? When we get our run game established, particularly our rocket sweep play, we're playing the way that we want to play. It's when teams start to shut down the run game, that's when it can present us some issues because then you lose a little bit of your play action stuff. So it's going out, establishing the line of scrimmage, establishing the run game on offense. Defensively, the same thing, right? Orange County is very similar to us in that they want to go out there and they want to establish their run game, usually with their fullback dive, and then that opens up their outside sweep stuff. And so can we shut that down, right? Can we put them in the same bind that I was just talking about with us? Can we make them play in a way that they're not comfortable playing? And then from a special team standpoint, it's can we, not let the game swing in a negative way through special teams by some sort of catastrophic error, a return for a touchdown, a blocked punt, that sort of thing, and then, you know, can we create something like that for ourselves? You know, can we go block a punt? Can we get a big return? Can we pin them deep and through our kickoff game? You know, that sort of thing.
why do we even do these interviews when JT Cruz gives me the same answers? Because he's nice enough to talk to me